From Astoria to the Rockaways, it's time for the Queen's New Yorker. And here is the man giving you all the info, your uber snazzy and jazzy host, Mr. Jason
Oh, yes! Thank you! Thank you, Jason Kelly. Whoa! Welcome, everybody! Yes! Oh, my goodness! Wow! You are too kind. Thank you so much. Wow. What a group today on this Saturday, February 22nd, 2020 or 2020. It is another edition of the Queen's New Yorker right here on YouTube. It is episode number 55, and we are coming to you live from the WJDC studios in beautiful Oviedo, Florida, ready to tackle another place of interest, this time in the gorgeous city of Long Island City. But before we do that, let's get some things taken care of before we delve into the place of interest that I have chosen for today. And it's a good place of interest. I noticed it's got a nice, beautiful history. And if you like graffiti, if you are a graffiti artist, if you're a tag expert, you're going to love this episode, because this building is covered with tags, not illegal tags, but artistic, great murals and tags that would make most people say, ugh, that's an ugly building. But it really isn't. I'm building it up a little bit. First, we have some things to talk about, like today's weather forecast here in Central Florida. Today is 52 degrees. It is cold, but it's 40 in New York right now as of 11 o'clock. And you guys are going to be seeing no precipitation, 26% humidity, and a low of 32. You're only going to get up to a high of 46. So your low is going to be 32, but you're going to have beautiful sunny skies today. So that can help ease the cold as we get to March. And the spring training baseball season officially kicks off today with the New York Mets playing a split squad of two games, one against St. Louis at 105 at St. Louis. They all play here in Florida. And then the Mets go to Tradition Field and play the Miami Marlins at 110. So they're splitting up their squad like they always do during the spring training. And they start off with two games. Hopefully they can win both games, get their spring training off to a great start, and start really taking 2020 as the year that this time the Mets are going to win the World Series. I hope they win another one before we get so old that we can't follow baseball anymore. I don't know, but no, it's all good. Let's just have a great season, play hard, play smart, and forget about whatever happened in the off season with all that accusations and allegations crap. You know, things happen, and you just got to go on, and you got to move forward, and you got to focus on you and your game and how you're going to play it this year. That's all I got to say about it. All right? So we'll give you those scores on the next edition of the Queen's New Yorker. In fact, we'll follow the New York Mets the whole way. Speaking of places of interest, when we do hit Flushing and Flushing Meadows Park and all that area, we will talk about Citi Field and the illustrious history and go all the way back to Shea Stadium and Citi Field. We'll cover the Mets ballpark. Yes, we have a sports team, and we're damn proud of them. Been around for almost 50, actually, let's see, 1962, 50, so 50, let's see, 58 years. Yeah, 58 years as a baseball team. We're still young. I mean, not as old as the Yankees. The Yankees go as far back as 1920-something. 26, actually, I guess, or when baseball was just, but we are a team that's going to continue to play as hard as we can, and we're not going to settle for anything less. So even if we have a down year, we still can try to finish. And like I said, last year we finished strong, folks. We finished 10 games over 500, and yet, look, we still didn't make the playoffs, but we finished on a high note. So that's a very good thing. All right, so you have to kind of take that and look at it and say, yeah, we really pushed the last 10 games and won good stuff. So we played our butts off, even though we had no way of getting into the playoffs. All right, so with those things covered, let's look at our YouTube channel that is phenomenally doing great. I'm going to update it and see if any changes had happened to it before we take care of that. Not that I can see, but last Thursday's episode has gotten 19 views. Very slow. It's a building thing. I know everybody's looking at the logo. That's the thing that right now is kind of getting everybody's attention. It's a beautiful logo. Look at it on the channel art. I just made it this past week, and I came up with the design. So it's a little bit different than what you normally have seen over the past 4 seasons. We are going into the 5th season as of this August. So August will make 5 years for the Queens New Yorker, but our YouTube channel itself has only seen an infancy of 9 months. But in that 9 months, folks, we have 363 subs, all of which are watching and doing their thing. Grand total view-wise, this is my favorite, 2,272 views. Give yourselves a round of applause for that. Yes. Yes. You have a lot to be proud of. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. You sure do. Oh, yeah. You certainly do. Very nice. All right. So with all of that said, like I said, folks, with all of that said, keep the comments coming. We'd love to hear from you. I've been getting a lot of great comments from great channels. And in fact, I'm going to give you 3 channels that have subbed to us in the last couple of days. And we'll look at them in just a little bit. All right? But here is the place of interest. We're focusing on Long Island City. And this interesting place is a building. It's a building covered in graffiti, covered in art, artistic graffiti. You wouldn't believe. Some people say that this building should be torn down. Well, in fact, it was threatened to be torn down in its historical description. But it was torn down, the original building, but was rebuilt a couple of years later. What am I talking about? I'm talking about 5 Points, the Institute of Higher Burnin', or the 5 Points Aerosol Art Center, Inc. Yes. This mural space at 4546 Davis Street in Long Island City, mainly referred to as 5 Points, opened in 1892, and it housed the Neptune Meter Factory, which built water meters. But Jerry Wolkoff, who was a developer, he bought the property in the early 70s, and he originally planned to develop the building, but instead leased the space to companies. Now, Wolkoff started leasing the space as artist studios in the 90s. The building's exterior was covered with street art, and the building became renowned worldwide for the art on its wall. Originally known as Fun Factory, the building was renamed 5 Points in 2002 when the graffiti artist Jonathan Cohn began curating the exterior murals. The new name represents the confluence of the 5 boroughs of New York City. The murals were exhibited mainly on the exterior walls of the building, and while the interior was occupied by about 200 artist studios, they all got together, and in 2013, Wolkoff made the controversial decision to demolish 5 Points and replace it with a residential complex, resulting in protest. Without giving any warning, Wolkoff had the murals whitewashed overnight, which led the artist to file a lawsuit against them. The 5 Points building was demolished completely in 2014. Construction of the new building complex started in 2015 with an expected completion early this year. In February 2018, Wolkoff was ordered by a judge to pay $6.7 million in damages to 21 artists. Now, the 5 Points consisted of 12 factory buildings that were 1, 3, or 5 stories high. 8 of these structures were interconnected, and the structures had a combined 250,000 to 300,000 square feet of floor space. The lot on which 5 Points was situated is 2.9 acres. 5 Points was visible from the New York City subway's IRT Flushing line, that's the 7 train, which passed over the site's far eastern corner. Now, according to 5 Points' official website, it was considered to be the world's premier graffiti mecca, where aerosol artists from around the globe painted colorful pieces on the walls of a 200,000 square foot factory building. It had housed the Crane Street Studios, in which 200 artists paid below market rents for studio space. A 450 square foot studio was listed as renting for $600 per month in 2009, and 5 Points was described by an About.com contributor in 2008 as a living collage of graffiti art covering a converted warehouse full of artists' studios. The name 5 Points signifies the 5 boroughs coming together as one, but because of its reputation as an epicenter of the graffiti scene, the industrial complex has united aerosol artists from across the world as well. Writers including Stay High 149, Tracy 168, Cope 2, Part, SPE, Dan Plasma, Cortez, and Tats CRU have come from Canada, Switzerland, the Netherlands, Japan, Brazil, and all over the United States to paint on the building walls. 5 Points had also been the subject of articles in newspapers such as the Christian Science Monitor, the Boston Globe, the New York Times, and the International Herald Tribune. Now, the building was originally constructed in 1892 for Neptune Meter as a factory for the construction of water meters. But at the time, the company was known as Thompson Meter Company. It changed its name in 1893, a year after the factory's opening. The property was bought in 1971 by Jerry Wolkoff, who did not have immediate plans for redevelopment. Originally, the space was occupied by a record company that created 8-track tapes, CD covers, and items for phonographs. Now, Wolkoff was approached in the 90s for permission for the factory to be used for legal graffiti work, which he granted. The site was first established as the Fun Factory, that's PHUN, in 1993 by Pat DiLilio under a program called Graffiti Terminators. Now, as the new curator of the Fun Factory, DiLilio was adamant that the word graffiti not refer to the work displayed at the Fun Factory, as graffiti had long been associated with crime and gang activity. In an effort to legitimize the art movement and set a distance from the negative connotation, he imposed strict rules for future projects. His rules included that none of the artwork submitted or showcased would depict gang-related symbols. Additionally, if any of the artist tags were found in the neighborhood or neighboring communities, their work would be immediately removed. Now, DiLilio was also credited by some young artists as the motivation for getting their GEDs and discouraging them from breaking the law. In 2002, Jonathan Cohn, a graffiti artist, going under the moniker of Mears One, began curating work. If unfamiliar with an artist, Cohn would be asked for a sample of their work, and if it is a mural, he will ask for a layout as well. Cohn renamed the building to 5 Points, making the building a low focal fine point to the arts scene of the 5 boroughs. He had plans to convert the 5 Points building into a graffiti museum. In April 2009, the New York City Department of Buildings ordered the largest building closed after citing it for numerous building deficiencies, including the studio partitions, which were built without permits. The inspections followed an incident on April 10th of 2009, in which an artist was injured when part of a concrete fire escape collapsed. Whoa. But after 40 years of ownership, the Wolkoff family decided to develop the 5 Points site, stating that allowance of the murals on the building had been for temporary purposes and that redevelopment of the site had been planned ever since it started to be used for graffiti. On August 21st of 2013, the New York City Planning Commission unanimously voted to approve plans to build condos on the property, while the New York City Landmarks Preservation Commission rejected a landmark status nomination by artists because the art was less than 30 years old at the time. The development plans include 2 residential towers with retail space and affordable housing. There would be a 1,000-unit apartment complex with a 250-spot parking lot and a public park. Wolkoff wanted to demolish 5 Points by the end of 2013 for this purpose. On October 9th, the New York City Council unanimously approved the $400 million development plan. The proposals for the building also called for 10,000 square feet to be used exclusively for art panels and walls in the building, including ground-level facades to be used for curated graffiti. It was estimated that in the last decade of the building's existence, 11,000 murals had been painted on the interior and exterior. Folks, I'm running out of time, so I'm going to pick up this part 2 of 5 Points on Tuesday. And we will continue our great story of this once great building that stood for all of the legal graffiti artists out there in the world. I'm Jason DeCanio, and remember, friends, be honest, be real, keep it simple, stupid, kiss, and don't lower yourself to the standard decimation of a nut monkey, whatever that means. Have a good day. We will see you the next time on the Queens New Yorker right here on YouTube. Bye-bye.
You have been watching the Queens New Yorker. This is Jason Kelly on a Jason DeCanio internet presentation. Thank you for your support.
Don't forget to subscribe to the David3000 Network for great more content like this one.